question that we often get is, working with co-writers or producers, the team that's with you in the room. You can be a vocalist, you can have the best voice, but with songwriting, that may not be your strong suit. So doing a collab with a co-writer, because it's interesting, if you look at some of the hit songs, and if you go on ASCAP or BMI, you'll see there was a team, 5, 6, 7, 8 writers sometimes, that contributed to that hit song. And that's for a reason. It wasn't just the sole songwriter, singer that came and crafted that huge track that with Billboard 100, played on radio, got synced up. So
that's how they like to advertise it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it takes a team of people and people who are, who know what they're doing when it comes to songwriting, not just very inspired writers, but like writers who have that understanding of the craft of what goes into making a song express what it's trying to express.
Yeah, I think, were there any, some of the feedback, because when you went and auditioned and you with, it was The Voice?
Yeah.
Were there any? Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't really get to play much of my own original music during my experience there. I do remember there was a clause in the agreement for being on the show that, like, if any original music got created, that it was like automatically property of Universal Pictures or Universal Records. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, with something like that, your goal is in like a competition show like that. Your goal is really, how can I make a cohesive visual and audible, or visual and sonic brand, basically. How can I make myself into something that's identifiable to the audience? Like, oh, that's the guy that does X, Y, and Z kind of music, where it's not ambiguous. And the same is true when you're making music for Sync, because at the end of the day, music supervisors get way more music than probably anyone, both including either of us or anyone listening to this podcast, ever listens to, probably in the span of a month. And they have to go through that music. And if your sonic and visual brand is not identifiable with at least a few key things, it's going to be very hard for your music to come up in the back of that supervisor's mind when there's a placement that's right for it.
Yeah, no. And I think, to your point, with it's, whether it's American Idol, The Voice, if you look at the big money maker, obviously, is identifiable songs, and the artists tend to cover tunes. So it's a hit, Frank Sinatra or Peggy Lee, who it might be, and then the publishing companies, that's a revenue stream on the performance income. And like you said, if an artist covers a huge track, and then it resonates with the listeners and the audience. But just to touch on what you said, Chase, I think that's a huge point. I was reading a book from a music super that was talking about, one of sort of the catch-22, once they got the gig, music from their inbox, physical CDs, people giving them music on, they recognize them, and on the street, hey, check out my track. So, it's one of those things that whether it's an agent or a supervisor is respecting, they get so much music, we get so much music, and then that's one half of the equation. The clearing a track for sync.